Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Films of Podcast. I am your host, Bryan Sudfield. This is episode 12, and I am very happy to say that, of course, I am joined by Amanda Dunn, my co-host. Amanda, it's been 2 months. It's been a very long hiatus. How was life?
Hi!
Wow.
Life is fantastic. I am very happy to be back joining Bryan, and let's talk about our special guest that we have with us tonight.
Amanda, introduce him, please.
Steven! His name is Steven. He happens to be my boyfriend, and he is sitting next to me waiting to just talk it up about Richard Linklater. Yes, our episode is on Richard Linklater, everybody.
Hi, Bryan. I'm very happy to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Not a
I
problem.
have very vast knowledge about Richard Linklater, so I'm very anxious to dispel all of that to you today, but thank you very much for having me on the show.
Not a problem at all. It's good to have you on here. Yes, Richard Linklater is the first director we're going to talk about. Now, when Amanda announced that our 12 episodes is going to be Richard Linklater, it took me a while to think, and then I realized one of his films was shot in 12 years. Perfect. It's like, what a coincidence.
You know what? I did that on purpose. I'm kidding. I didn't think of that at all, but that is pretty cool.
Yes, very, very cool. Now, before we get into the films of his career, let's just give a background on how we feel about him. Richard Linklater is definitely one of the best directors we have working today. He's one of the best writer-directors we have. I would consider him one of the best writer/directors we have alongside Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, Wes Anderson, Woody Allen, and PTA. Like, he's that good. He's done so many different genres. He's done comedy, drama, he's done animation. He's done, like, documentary-style films. He's done romance. He's done coming-of-age films. Like, he's done a bunch of shit. He's done all that jazz. And all that jazz!
You should be a jazz singer.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that when I graduate from college. So yeah, Richard Linklater, one of the best. Amanda, give your thoughts on Richard Linklater.
Richard Linklater is in my top 5 film directors. If we did an episode at some point with Chase on top 5, I would probably want to be on that one. Richard Linklater is one of my favorites because he's an amazing writer. Everything that he has directed, for the most part, like, has everything he directed been his own writing as well? For the most part,
I think most of his films.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I appreciate what he does. Also, it's just, he stands out to me. A lot of the reason why is because of the content, what he writes, and his style of directing. It's very natural, very real, and I've always been attracted to that sort of approach. So, yeah, we'll start. Well, Steven, he could say why he likes Richard Linklater, if he would like to.
Yeah, Richard Linklater, I just think he's a beautiful man. No, I mean, his film Boyhood it should have won every Oscar possible. I mean, just great movie. The fact that it was filmed over the span of 12 years it really expanded what this industry can do and what can be impacted by it, and I think that we'll be seeing a lot more movies like this because of what happened with Richard Linklater.
Awesome. We'll continue on with Boyhood a little later, but first we will start with which film, Bryan?
It's Impossible to Learn to Plow by reading books. This is the only film of his that I did not get to watch because it was impossible to find. No pun intended. It really was. I couldn't find this film anywhere. I couldn't find it online. I couldn't find it, like, anywhere at all. So I can't really give my thoughts on this film. Even though I wouldn't say this film is, like, a theatrical film. The next film we'll talk about is, like, his first theatrical release film. But, Amanda, did you ever see this movie, It's Impossible to Learn How to Plow by reading books? That I probably just mixed up the title.
No. Nope. I have not. And I honestly I forgot that was I didn't remember that this happened. Was it more like a was it a feature or was it a short film?
It's 85 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay. It's a feature. All right. I'm not even
next.
sure what it's about or anything like that. Sad to say, but it would be interesting to see what he, his very first work that he released to some extent.
Got it. Next film is Slacker. Now, the thing with this movie is that I wasn't really into the story per se, but I did like the way it was filmed. I love how like he directed it, he wrote it, and he began the film because he was in the first scene of the film. Um, what I like about this movie is that like it feels like one continuous shot, and because like, it seems like the camera never cuts away. Like that's this special thing about this movie. I don't really remember it that well because I only saw it one time, and that was like 2 months ago when I was trying to watch a bunch of his films. Uh, if I had to like give it a grade, I would give it like a B. So yeah, Slacker, weird film, but cool film at the same time.
I haven't seen Slacker either. That's the one that I thought was that we were gonna speak about first. What is it about?
I'm reading the IMDb synopsis. A day in the life of Austin as the camera roams from place to place and provides a brief look at the overeducated, the social misfits, the outcasts, and the oddballs.
Okay, I remember that now. You said he's in the first scene. Is it the mirror shot?
No, he's in a car. Mirror shot? Oh yeah, he's like on a bus. Is that what you mean? Because he's not like looking at a mirror. You just see his reflection through a window on a bus.
Okay, no, I remember seeing in a tribute video or a documentary I'd seen about him. There was a shot of him in a mirror, and it looked like it was maybe one of his projects, but I'm not sure which one it was. Anyway, we can move along.
Hold on, just give me a second to like prep because I have quotes from certain films, and now like we finally get to the film that pretty much made him a big deal, and that film goes to.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin. Dazed and confused. I fucking love this film. I love this film to death. I mean, you got so many starring performances from so many people who weren't well known. You just heard Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, Mila Jovovich. There's a lot of people in this movie. There really is a lot of people in this film, and it's about the last day of high school and like, just like this is what you want. Like you want to have a great time when you graduate high school. I think. Oh wait, no, they're gonna be seniors. I'm a senior right now, so I mean, I wouldn't say I acted the same way. This movie takes place in the '70s, so it's a little different than it is in the 2000s. But what I love about this movie, first of all, I love the soundtrack. This might be the best movie soundtrack I've ever heard in my life. It has so many great '70s songs, "Free Ride" and uh I'm blanking out right now because I just can't really think of anything else on top of my head. Like, I just really love this movie because of the story. I love coming of age films. Those are generally some of my favorite films ever made. And this was the film that really made him a big deal. And it's just so quotable, mainly because of Matthew McConaughey. And that's where the alright came from. And it really is a terrific film. I love this film. And I'm not going to talk about it much because I feel like everyone has really said everything they need to say about this film. I love it. I think it's great.
Oh yeah, Dazed and Confused is such a classic teen comedy, but it's not like the. It just sort of has something different about it. There's so many teen comedies, obviously. There's plenty to choose from, but I've noticed that this one ends up on a lot of people's favorites when it comes to this genre, and it deserves to be there. Such a witty sarcastic and hilarious writing. The comedy is fantastic, but also like very relatable.
Heartfelt.
Even
Very
though
heartfelt.
even though it's set in the 70s, still like when was it? It was shot in the 90s though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it still transcends sort of over into themes and relatable characters. So many great cast members in this one, and it's really fun to watch them now. When at the time they were not big names, you see the star quality even then, early on. It's great because Matthew McConaughey literally sounds exactly the same as he does now. Like when he just played that clip, it's like you know exactly who's talking as soon as you hear him speak. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, Dazed and Confused is always brought up when it comes to Linklater when people are discussing, you know, his best. It's kind of difficult not to bring up Dazed and Confused. Steven, do you have any? Oh, are you dazed and confused
I'm
right
dazed and
now?
No, I think that it's a great coming of age story, and not my favorite genre, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. It's just there's not the movies that I gravitate towards. But definitely one of the better ones, I think, for sure.
You've been dazed and confused! I can't reenact the Led Zeppelin song. I apologize to our listeners. So our next film is...
I was ready to get off the train after talking to him a short while. He was so sweet, I couldn't help it.
Before Sunrise. Alright, I'm just gonna give you guys a backstory on this. Now, I am not really a big fan of romance films, and I'll tell you why. Because they're all the same. With this film, and the other two films that we'll bring up just later on in this episode, it's so realistic. Like, there's so much dialogue. You just love hearing them talk. Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy killed it here as Jesse and Celine. They really, and Ethan Hawke was already big in the 90s. Like he did Reality Bites. He was in Dead Poets Society. Like he was having a big career, and Julie Delpy was just starting to become big here. And I mean, they walk around. Wait, this one's in which one? Which city does this one take place in?
Oh crap, Brian! I should know the answer to this, and I do.
Oh, Vienna.
Boston?
Vienna.
Vienna.
Got it, Vienna. Yeah, like, and there's so many, like, long takes in this movie, which is something that's amazing about Richard Linklater, like, overall. Like, he always has a lot of long takes. He likes to have long takes with his actors, which is something great for any director, really. And, it's just a story, like, you would think that maybe these two just talking and talking and talking for a whole movie may be boring, but honestly, it's really engaging. Now, I will say that this is probably my least favorite of the trilogy, but it started off the trilogy extremely well. I still think it's a perfect film, but it's probably my least favorite out of the original of the three films. And I consider this to be one excellent romance movie, and it celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. So congratulations to everyone involved with Before Sunrise. Amanda, give your thoughts on this film.
Oh man, I'm gonna try not to be long-winded here because I could talk about this trilogy for far too long. I remember watching this for the first time and just being so inspired. I want to be in a movie like this. I just kept saying that I want to be in a movie like this because it's not you know, you could recommend this to anyone, but there would be some people, if you told them what it's about, they would probably be like, oh, that sounds kind of boring, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is the type of film that really surprises people with how much they end up loving it. You know, you got so much dialogue. There's not a whole lot actually happening as far as, you know, different things. It doesn't transition into like anything major. No huge conflicts or anything like that. It's really just two people getting to know each other, and that's the gist of it. But when you have someone who can write the way Richard writes when it comes to the Before series, and then you have actors who can bring that to life in a way that Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy did, like to perfection, it's like you can't help but appreciate it, no matter who you are. Now, I'm sure there are some people that don't care for the series, but I know that this is a very popular series when it comes to, like you said, I don't really care for romance movies, but I love this
Yes, you
series.
do. Yes, you do. You love romance movies. Coming of age romance, especially.
Oh my god.
Come on. I don't really care. I'm a woman and I don't care for romance movies.
What are you not? Who are you talking to?
I thought I was talking to you.
No, I was repeating what Bryan said.
Oh, I thought you were talking about you. I'm like, no.
Excuse Stephen, everybody. Excuse him. Excuse him. I said to Bryan, like you said, you don't really care for romance movies, but you love this trilogy. That was me making a point about how people who don't think they will like this end up really liking it. As far and that being said, I totally recommend you watch this, Stephen. I have been actually since I met Stephen a couple of years ago, I've gotten him to watch a lot of films that he hadn't seen before, stuff that I felt like is necessary for him to see, and I've always had this in the back of my mind. At some point, I gotta sit down with him and make him watch the entire Before series. It's required viewing, in my opinion, for any film lover. So, yeah. You asked me how I feel about Before Sunrise. It is one of the best romance films ever made. And the thing is, I don't think it's just in the romance category. I think it's just like it's about life and, of course, relationships. But it's just so unique and original. Anyway,
you love looking at Ethan Hawke, don't you?
We can continue on. But the thing is, too, I wanted to say, there are so many moments in this movie that, for instance, my brother, he would love to talk about this right now. Marcus, he's been on the show before. I'm pretty sure this one is his favorite in the series. Before Sunrise is his favorite. There is a scene in it that he says is one of his favorite scenes in any movie ever made, and it's when they're in the record store.
I was just about to say that. That was my guess. That was my guess.
Such a memorable moment. Like, one of those moments that you just feel, like, you feel what they're feeling. It's so brilliant. So brilliant. Oh my gosh. But I just love that when this film was made, we had no clue as an audience. No clue they were going to make another film, like, years later. And when it was announced, I mean, wow, like, they're bringing them back, it's going to continue on, like, we didn't know what direction it was going to go in, like, how they were going to continue the story. So, I just think this is such a unique film series. There's nothing else really like it when it comes to just how they made it over the span of, how many years?
9 years.
9 years.
9 years each film.
It's to me, it's seamless. But, yeah, go ahead. What's next?
Suburbia.
Okay, Suburbia.
It's okay. I like Steve Zahn, and Giovanni Ribisi, but this film is meh. It's not really memorable to me. I honestly don't really remember. I think I remember like one scene, where he's like spinning a bat or something. That's like the only thing I remember. It's like I personally think this Linklater's Mallrats. Like, it has a Mallrats Clerks vibe to it. It feels like a Kevin Smith movie, to be quite honest. And a good one, but like, I don't know, it's just not one of his best films, but it's still a good film for what it is. And I really don't have much to say because I don't really remember this one that much. What do you think of this film?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's definitely, I'm not going to sit here and recommend anyone see it, but if you're a Richard Linklater fan, obviously, when you're a fan of a director, try and see everything they've put out just to form your own opinion about it. I agree with you. It does feel very Kevin Smith-like. I don't love everything Kevin Smith makes, but he has a very specific style, and it does feel similar to that. When it comes to Kevin Smith doing something well, it definitely, when he does what he does well, it's awesome. And I don't feel like this is as great as like an awesome Kevin Smith piece.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all right. It's all right. I haven't seen it in a while. I give it a pass, but nothing fantastic.
Yeah. Just give me a second. Next film is The Newton Boys. Matthew McConaughey, Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio, and I forgot his name. Skeet Ulrich.
Skeet Ulrich.
Skeet,
Another meh film. It's okay, I guess. It feels like, trying to think. It's, yeah, I have it on the top of my head, but I can't remember what film. Like, I mean, it's fine, but again, not really something that's memorable. I personally didn't really want to rewatch this one, but I felt like I had to because I only saw it one time before. So I'm like, sure, I'll rewatch it again. It's okay at its best. I like the performances. I do like the story, but I just don't care necessarily about the film itself. So yeah, Newton Boys, eh.
Yeah, Newton Boys. I thought it was a fun movie. I watched it though, like at 13 or something.
Right.
When I had a crush on Skeet Ulrich because he was in The Craft.
All the girls did.
He was in The Craft and he was in Scream, and it wasn't. I can't remember if this came in between those two or it came after Scream. I don't know, but I just remember I already kind of liked him, and I thought it was a pretty fun cast of male actors. So I watched it and I didn't hate it or anything. I remember like being entertained and I mean there's some eye candy in there. So I watched it with a few of my girlfriends and we were like,
Like
oh, look how cute he is, so cute. But I mean I don't remember it for the story as much as I just remember the experience of watching it and the cast members.
Same with me. I just remember watching all the male actors and just thinking that this is the only reason they were cast. This is
what, because they're
really
cute?
Feel like it, yeah, I didn't really feel like there was much to it anyway. So yeah, I feel the same way. I don't know. How do you feel, Brian? Do you disagree?
Meh. I'm just not excited to talk about it. The next film, Amanda knows that I do not like the next film that we're going to talk about. Waking Life. I think this film, and excuse my language, I think this film fucking sucks. This movie's terrible. This is, in my opinion, the worst thing he's ever made. It's visually amazing. The animation is fucking fantastic. But the story is bland. The pacing is off. I don't give a shit about this film. I don't know why he made this. I get it if he wanted to do something different, but in my opinion, this film sucks. And to quote his star Lorelai, I thought Waking Life was boring. Thank you, Lorelai. I fucking love you for that. Thank you.
I remember seeing her say that, and I thought of you immediately because it was after I found out you hate the movie.
I really don't like it. I really don't like it. I just don't care. It's very boring. Like, I want to like it, but I can't. It's not my kind of movie. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I don't hate the movie the way you do. I definitely am not in love with the film, but I am in love with this animation. I don't know. I remember being someone recommended this to me. Like, have you seen the movie Waking Life? And this was before I was paying attention to Richard as a director. He was just going on and on about how cool it was, and I watched it, and my consensus was that it was definitely a cool film. I was very impressed with the animation, probably more than anything else.
That's the only thing I liked about the film, the animation.
I was watching it, getting easily distracted by other things like around me, and that was probably because of the pacing. I can't remember very specific details about the story at all. When I think of Waking Life, I just think of how freaking cool it looks. That's really all I can contribute here. The movie looks cool, for lack of a better word. It looks rad. There, I used another cool word. But yeah, I mean, I can see where it might not be someone's cup of tea. So I'm not mad at you for hating it. so much.
Like, why do you think people love it so much? It has such a high rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
I just feel like it was contributing something that hadn't really been done before, and it's very artistic for sure. It's very artsy, and the storyline, it almost feels like it's trying to be extremely deep, and for some people it might come off as pretentious a little bit with how the story is being told, the way the people are talking, and just how slow it is sometimes.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
But I mean, I feel like that's how. Okay, I think of the movie as like certain music. I don't know if this is making sense, but
Well, it's like the movie. The movie doesn't make any sense either.
A song and hear something completely different.
Oh, here we go, guys. Technical difficulties. Yippee-ki-yay. Technical difficulties. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
We're back!
Honestly, I think because of you talking like Waking Life, it hung up. Skype wanted to hang up.
Shut up. I hate this movie. End it here. or maybe Bryan just hung up on me.
I did not hang up on you.
I'm kidding, I know. It was actually my fault. Go ahead.
Next film. Finally, moving on to something that isn't shitty, but not something that's memorable either. Tape, starring Ethan Hawke, Robert Sean Leonard, and... Damn it! No! My joke got ruined!
You got a joke? Tell it.
It was gonna say Uma Thurman, so then the song Uma Thurman was gonna come on, and they're like, Uma Thurman!
I have a joke, but it doesn't have to do with Uma Thurman.
Tell your joke, go ahead.
Oh, it's kind of long.
Oh, well, save it for later. Tape...
For the joke video?
Yeah, we'll do it for the joke episode.
The joke episode, coming to a theater near you this Christmas. Tape... at the time Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman were married, and Ethan Hawke reunited with Robert Sean Leonard, who did Dead Poets Society with him. I don't know why, and maybe it's just me who thinks this. This has a Reality Bites feeling to it, and it's ironic because Ethan Hawke was in that movie. Like, that's what I could say, and Richard Linklater actually did not write this movie. This is one of the movies that he didn't write. So that's saying something. And, it's a good film. I don't really have much to say. What's going on with you?
I seriously just forgot which movie we were talking about.
Tape.
Sorry. Tape. Yes. Oh, yeah. Back to he didn't write Tape?
What?
You said he did not write this one?
Correct.
Who wrote it? Do you know?
Steven Belberg, because he wrote the play Tape.
Okay, I thought that's right. It was based off of a play. I was just about to confirm that again. There was a couple of glitches, so I missed a few things you said, and it's not that I'm not listening to you.
Oopsie.
So Tape. This one is actually one that I remember, and this is when I started to really pay attention to him as a director, because I saw this before Sunrise. I think the order I saw things in, I saw Dazed and Confused before everything else, and then I saw Tape and Waking Life somewhere around the same time. I think I watched Tape because of Waking Life. And I actually really enjoy films that are based off of plays, and they kind of only take place in one location, and there's a lot of dialogue.
That's the best thing about movies like that. Movies that take place in one location are always really awesome. Like Carnage, for example.
Oh my gosh, like Reservoir Dogs.
Yes.
Best movie ever made.
12 Angry Men.
Yes.
And also, what's it called? Carnage.
Yeah, Carnage. I just said Carnage.
Oh, you
Freaking
said it?
Carnage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm repeating, Brian. Sorry. I thought I had like thought of that on my own. Okay, so tape. I thought it was very. I just remember being engaged, very, very engaged. I at the time wasn't a huge Uma Thurman fan. I wasn't completely sold on her yet. This was before I saw Kill Bill. Okay, because after that I was like, oh, okay, you're awesome.
I didn't like her. I saw her in Batman as she was
Poison Ivy.
And
Oh
I was like,
God.
and I was like, who is this person? Then I saw Kill Bill and I was like, oh, that's who this person is. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone in that Batman movie was terrible.
Except Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, he was awful.
No, he was get to the chopper. Do it! Do it now!
I challenge you in that Arnold Schwarzenegger impression challenge. I challenge you.
I've heard, yes, because I'm about to say, I've heard Bryan do the same thing you just did.
Do it.
I wish you guys could see what I'm seeing right now. Their faces, so attractive.
Thank you very much.
Bryan. Alright, so, yeah. The performances I thought were fantastic in this. I didn't really know where it was gonna go. I thought it was kind of, suspenseful a little bit. Also, just a little weird at the same time, which I think I'm a little weird, and so I'm attracted to weird things and weird people. That's why I'm sitting here hanging out with these two bozos.
Okay.
Right now, I wish you. I wish.
Damn it!
you
Your
could see
internet
their
keeps
faces.
freezing. God damn it.
Yeah, I really liked Tape, and I actually I think I recommended it to you, Bryan, because at one point, sorry, technical difficulties abound on our first episode of the fall. But I remember recommending Tape to you. You hadn't seen it yet, and I told you it was one that I really liked. In the end,
Did you recommend?
I don't even know how much of that you caught.
I don't remember if you recommended it to me.
I remember it, and I'm pretty sure I recommended it on an episode in the past when we were talking about Ethan Hawke or Uma Thurman or somebody.
But we
were
didn't
talking
do an
about
episode on
someone
Ethan Hawke.
that we're talking about tonight. We were speaking about him because he was in a movie that was on the episode of whoever we were talking about, and I talked about Tape.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What the hell? Oh, get that off.
He's being a bad boy. Bad boy.
Bad boy, bad boy. Okay. So that's it with Tape? You finished with Tape?
Yeah, we're done with Tape. We can
Good.
go on to the next one.
Good. Okay. So, our next film is...
I think it's time we started our new class project. It's called Rock Band.
Can we tell our parents?
No!
School of Rock! School of Rock.
I look like Jack Black.
That's what she told me in the text, like, let's see, that was like 14 days ago, I think.
What do you mean? That's what I told you.
You told me that he looks and acts like Jack Black. Don't lie.
No,
Don't
I
lie.
said you were talking about Goosebumps.
Hashtag no lies, Amanda.
And I said, you said something about Jack Black. It'd be cool if Steven talked about on the Richard Linklater episode because
No, you said that Steven reminds you of Jack Black.
I said that would be cool.
Alright, I'm gonna get up the message
Guys,
right
guys,
now. I'm
guys,
doing it. I'm
please
doing
fight
it.
over
I'm
me right
doing
now.
it. I'm not kidding. I'm doing it. But first, I mean, let's just talk about this movie. This is my personal favorite Richard Linklater film. I fucking love this film. I grew up with this film. I saw this film when it came out. I was 5 years old when this came out. This is special because it was the first Richard Linklater film I ever saw. And I mean, this and Boyhood are the only films of his I've seen in the theater. So that's kind of sad that I've only seen 2 Linklater films in the theater. What I love about this movie is that first of all, you got amazing performances from all the kids, and then headlined by Jack Black, who is excellent here.
He's a man.
Like he's the man. You're the man, because the world is run by the man. Who? The man. The president. He's in the White House. Miss Mullen. She's the man. Ew, that is disgusting. Get that away from me.
It's a shot of my ugly mug right there to his face. He didn't appreciate it much.
Your mug is
Skibbity-doo.
your mug is not ugly.
I'm being attacked over here.
Bryan, come back. I know this is one of your favorite movies, and you're not done talking about it.
Let's move on. What else is on the list?
Yes. School of Rock is one of my favorite films ever made. It would be like in my top 15 of all time.
Why 15? Would it be in your top 12?
I have to think about that. No, but like I said, just Jack Black, and these kids are all amazing. They all great. They played their instruments. They did good with the sand. They were all great. And then you got amazing performances from side people. John Cusack, Mike White, who wrote the screenplay. This is another film that Richard Linklater didn't write. Sarah Silverman. And it really... It's just so much fun, and it's so underrated. Not a lot of people talk about this film. It has a very high rating on Rotten Tomatoes, very well deserved. But honestly, the audience rating isn't exactly that high. It's like a 70, the audience rating, but the critic rating is like 93. So I mean, I guess audience people really don't care for this movie that much. I really think that it is a great film, and I'm glad that Jack Black got a Golden Globe nomination for this film. Very well deserving. He lost the award to Bill Murray for Lost in Translation. Very well deserving. I love all the songs. As you heard in the intro, just the music is great. And I love the use of songs. I love that he's just teaching these kids about rock. Like, it's amazing. There's a lot of quotable lines. The bar scene where they sing the song by Stevie Nicks. Yes, like a white wind, I'm singing the song and that she sang. Ooh.
Now what most people, I think we need to preface this by what most people might not realize about Jack Black is he actually had his own band.
Yes, okay, Tenacious D.
This is a plug for Tenacious D. If you haven't heard them, YouTube them right now and just saturate yourself with the knowledge and the poetry and the beauty that is Tenacious D. Because him, it'll blow your mind.
It will, but back to School of Rock.
Right, go ahead.
But yeah, that bar scene, like, just, like, when he plays the song, then he's, like, dancing like a butterfly. When he comes over, he's like, yeah, Stevie. Like, just, I fucking love Jack Black in this movie. I really do. I really love that man. I really love that man. And we'll bring him up later on in the film that he did with Mr. Linklater. I'm excited to talk about that film, too. But School of Rock is just, it's so rewatchable. I think it's Richard Linklater's his most rewatchable film. You may argue something else, Amanda. That's fine, but I really think that this is his most rewatchable film. And because of its fun, its originality, it's just a great film that if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you guys check it out. I really cannot stop praising this film because it really is a great, great film. I love it. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Please, Amanda, I really want to know your thoughts on School of Rock.
Well, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, it's so much fun. First off, that's one of the main things I can say about the film is that I had so much fun watching it. And I would probably agree with you about the rewatchability factor. It would probably be the one film, that or Dazed and Confused, but maybe this one, honestly, that would appeal to the masses the most, like within any age range. And so this would probably be the Richard Linklater film that gets watched the most by people of any age. And I think Jack Black this is one of my, I was about to say my favorite performance from him, but I might have spoke too soon. It would definitely be in the top 3 though, for sure.
For sure.
I really want Steven to see this because I assumed that he had seen this movie and that he had probably loved it and he would have plenty to say about it because I already know, like, he would love it. There's some movies.
I would love it.
There's some movies, you watch and you think of a certain person, you're like, oh, they love this or they would love this. I was expecting him to be like, oh yeah, School of Rock is amazing. And then he told me yesterday that he actually hadn't seen it before, and I was just like, oh, well, that's sad. It would probably be one of your favorite movies.
It probably would be.
Okay, I found the text. You texted me something about the 500 million Goosebumps books you received.
No,
You
Fear
wrote.
Street.
You wrote. I
Fear
wrote this.
Street.
Okay, I
Hey,
wrote
there's
this.
a
Fear
difference.
Street.
People die in Fear Street. Nobody dies in Goosebumps.
Fear Street. I have a bunch
Fear
of
Street and Goosebumps. Whatever. Let me finish. Okay.
So
So
there's not a whatever. There's not a whatever. It's Fear Street or Goosebumps.
Okay,
Okay.
it's one of those two. It's an
It's
R.L.
Fear
Stein
Street.
novel, though.
Oh.
Okay, so I wrote this. I'm hearing Goosebumps is very good. She wrote, you know I love R.L. Stein. I'm like, I do know you love that guy. And you love Jack Black. She wrote, yeah, I'm basically dating him. Ha 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 ha. I wrote, I don't want to be mean, but Steven looks a little like Jack Black. Don't sue me. Ah! Don't know where that came from. She wrote, that's what I said. I already know. And I wrote, does Steven act like Jack Black? If so, we need him on the show because we'll be discussing 2 Jack Black films. He could be his distant cousin. He's silly AF.
That means as Fred.
I'm aware of what it means. I'm a teenager,
And some
of
viewers
course.
may not.
But
So now we have the proof. You said he looks like Jack Black. I didn't say it. I said.
but you said that you're dating him.
You didn't know it. You didn't know that's what I meant.
No, I knew what you meant.
Well, you said no. I'm not trying to be mean, but
That's why I brought up Steven. If I didn't understand, I'd be like, wait, who? Who are you dating?
I feel like people are listening to this right now. Like, what are they talking about? Who's Steven?
Guys, get that quote out of my face.
Okay.
But
No, go on. I like hearing you guys argue about me.
I
This
think
is great.
the bookend to this is that
Jack Black is a great actor, worthy
Jack
of all
Black
the
is-
Academy Awards.
Jack Black is super cool. This movie is super fun.
Let's hope he
and
finds this on.
we
Let's hope he
need to
finds
watch
this and
it.
like wants to contact us. Like, who's this kid that looks like me? And then we all get famous because
Because we had Steven on the Richard Linklater show.
and well because his show, because of Bryan's show, then we get some exposure.
Huh.
And then you see what I'm saying? Then he becomes a famous talk show host, and then I just become a famous Jack Black like stunt guy.
Okay. But Amanda, can I ask you this? What's your favorite scene in this movie? Is it when he's singing his song in that long take? What the fuck is going on?
We're just laughing at your reactions to things. My favorite scene? Oh gosh. I
What-
like when he sings.
The song in the classroom? No, you're not
Yeah.
hardcore when you're not hardcore. Unless you live hardcore. Unless you live hardcore. But the legend of the Ram was my
I was just
hardcore.
Like when I watched, I was just thinking, like, what if I were a student and this was happening? I would be like, this is my favorite teacher.
I would also be like, yes,
want
I
you
would
to
say
teach
that,
me
but also,
everything, every class for the rest of my life.
but
Like,
also, I would be like, what the hell is going on? What is this man doing in front of me?
it would be the best. And I just thought about like how cool that would be because I remember getting substitute teachers sometimes. Sometimes they'd be cool. Sometimes they'd be kind of awful.
Mhm.
And if I ever had a teacher like that at that age, it would have just blown my mind. I would have became their best friend.
Yeah.
And I just love the girl from iCarly. This
Miranda
is like the first time I
Cosgrove.
saw her. So that's why I started watching iCarly.
What?
Because
Hello. She was on a little show before that called Drake and Josh, one of the greatest shows of my childhood.
I did remember when I watched School of Rock that she was on that show, but I didn't really watch the show that much. I saw it here and there, but I recognized her face from that. But I just kind of fell for her in School of Rock, so then I became a huge iCarly fan after that. iCarly's so good. Anyway, what's the next movie?
Next film goes to
Baby, you are gonna miss that plane.
Before Sunset, the best film in this entire trilogy. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now, here is the best part about this. Richard Linklater came back to write... this film came out 9 years after this. It came out in 2004. I was 6 years old. Amanda was... How old were you, Amanda?
In 2004?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I don't know how to do the math. No, I'm just kidding. 2004, I was
21. See, you got it. You're good at math. A great year for you because you were able to finally drink and you saw this movie, Eternal Sunshine, Garden State, and some other film. Closer. There we go. Because I know how much you love Closer.
That's a film that's worth talking about.
Well, don't worry. We'll do a Mike Nichols episode in the future. We already did a Natalie Portman episode, so that was Very fun. What I love about this film even more is that there's a lot more long takes, and the dialogue is so much better because Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy co-wrote the script with Linklater, and that right there is saying something that it's just so different. And like in the first one, they're so young. Here, they're starting to become more older, and then the third one, which we'll talk about later on, they're adults. Like they're adults, but there's so many long takes in this movie. I think the longest take in this movie is like 12 minutes long. Another 12. hmm. But no, like, and also, like, this movie only takes place within, like, and it takes place in real time. It only takes place, like, within an hour and 15 minutes, because this movie is a really short film. It's only, like, 85 minutes long. It takes place in real time. It doesn't, like, jump, like, a few minutes ahead or a few hours ahead like the first one did. It just takes place in real time, and it's honestly amazing. It's really amazing. Even Hawke and Julie Delpy jump back into the roles perfectly. And I think the reason why more people like this one more than the first one and third one is because I really don't know why. I can't really think about it. If you guys watch the Top 5 Saturdays Live, which is a show I do every Saturday with Chase Lee, our good friend Chase, he put that as his number one sequel. And that almost made my top 5. It was like number 6. It was that close to making my list. And I remember him saying that because it was so good, it was the best one. It's because there was just more. Like, it was just more realistic, I guess. Yeah, but Before Sunset is terrific. And that line that I just played, oh, fucking beautiful. Yeah, I love it. This one takes place in Paris, which is cool. I love it. Fucking love it. A plus. A plus for this film. A plus 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 plus. Amanda, go ahead.
Before Sunset is arguably the best of the series, arguably, because they're all
Definitely.
amazing. They're all amazing, and sometimes I go back and forth. But as it stands right now, if I had to, I absolutely had to choose between them, I would say Before Sunset is my favorite. When trying to pinpoint why, I mean, it's like there aren't any obvious reasons, because like I said, they're all amazing. But I can say, specifically, little things like, oh, well, this takes place in Paris. I mean, I don't know how much that matters to anyone else, but I mean, I have like a slight obsession with Paris. I've never even been, but I mean, I just liked looking at it. Paris films, it looks amazing. It films beautifully, and it's supposedly the city of love. And so when you have that as the backdrop, but you don't really know what's about to happen with these characters, I think that's another part of what makes this one so intriguing. You already have the preface to this, to where they are now. We saw how they met. It takes place over the course of 24 hours, and where it leaves you, where it ends, you have no idea where they're going to go from there. And as an audience, we didn't expect, and we didn't know that they were going to continue the story years later. So when I heard that they were doing this, I was obviously over the moon with excitement, but I was also a little nervous. Like, can they pick this back up and make it as phenomenal as the first film? Is that possible? And then within the first couple of minutes of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be brilliant. I knew, like, as soon as it started, the first exchange between the two of them, oh my gosh, it had me just, like, sucked in. And I guess it was almost more, you were a little bit more intrigued by the characters already, because you want to know, like, well, what happened? Where have you guys been? What's your story? What has gone on with you? And what has happened in your life since the last time you saw each other? And the way they tell that story within a day, just a few, you have less time in this movie. You don't have 24 hours, you have just a few before the sun sets. Oh my gosh. One of the absolute best moments when they're in the car and she starts to get a little upset. She starts sort of ranting about relationships and the expectations from men, and her idea of how, Brian, are you listening to me?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And this is
Okay, just making
payback.
sure.
This is payback, Amanda.
Just making sure.
You always
But,
go
like,
on
that scene in the
Snapchat
car-
while we're recording. This is payback.
That scene in the car, and then she started.
Wait a minute, they weren't in the car.
Pull over, let me out. That whole.
Wait a minute, were they in the car?
Yeah, she
In
was
the
like,
I thought that was the first film.
Cause she was like,
taxi.
it could have been a contender.
Oh.
In the taxi.
What was that? You sounded like Vito Corleone. I'm gonna make him an offer I can't refuse. You gotta go in the car,
Could have been a contender.
and you gotta go, and you gotta see.
Go ahead, Amanda. Tell us about the rest of the movie.
You gotta move your lip like this. This is the only way for you to talk like this. It's very impossible, but it had to be done like this.
See, you got it. You're Marlon Brando.
Go ahead, Amanda. I'm sorry.
It's totally fine. I mean,
I'm imitating your favorite actor.
This is my favorite actor. It's very entertaining. Good job. But I was just pointing out that scene in the car is one of my favorite moments. But the ending to this movie, if we made a list of 10 endings of all time, it would be that list. They couldn't have chosen a more perfect ending to a film like this. I can't. And Nina Simone was involved, one of my favorite singers. Like, oh my gosh, I just remember it ended, and I jumped up off the couch, and I looked at my brother, and I'm like, no, they didn't. There has to be another film. And when I found out there was one more coming, no doubts at that point.
No.
These people know how. They just know. Like Julie and Ethan and Richard, such a fantastic combination of artists. And I think these films stand out from any others that are even trying to be in the same genre. They just stop it. They stop
Exactly.
They stop all of the contenders if there
That's
are any.
exactly the point. That's exactly why these three films are excellent. Now let me ask you this: when we did our top 5 sequels episode, me and Chase, you commented that this was the #1 sequel. Why is that? I never really asked you. Why do you think that this is the best sequel you ever seen?
I mean, I've kind of already said, but when it's the idea that it happened years later, and it branched off of a story that we were not expecting there to be a sequel to.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when sequels are made, they're usually not that far apart, and they usually don't actually like have a way of continuing a story years later with the same characters so successfully.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a typical sequel at all, and because of that, it's in its own
its own
Atmosphere.
it's in a
Right.
universe.
that works. That's good. That works. Just okay. Our next film goes to Bad News Bears, starring Billy Bob Thornton. Actually, oh wait a minute. I saw this in the theater too. So I've seen 3 movies of his in the theater. I remember seeing this. I was 7 years old. I saw it with my dad and my uncle. I liked it when I was a kid, but then I saw it when I recently rewatched it for this episode. This was like 2 months ago. And I was like, it's okay. I love Billy Bob Thornton. I love watching that guy on screen. And I thought he played this character very well, but I've never seen the original one. I've yet to watch the original Bad News Bears. I've heard amazing things. My dad tells me to watch it like all the time. And I mean, as a film, it's okay. I think that it's one of Linklater's weakest films. But I wouldn't say it's a bad film either. I would say that it's decent. And yeah, and Richard Linklater did not write the screenplay to this movie either. I think you could tell when he doesn't write a movie. When, like, you could tell that it's not his dialogue. School of Rock, though, is kind of an exception because it works very well with his direction. And, Bad News Bears is okay. I would say if you're a fan of Billy Bob Thornton, maybe give it a watch because he's actually really awesome here. But that's really the only positive thing I could say about this movie. But Bad News Bears is okay, and it gets like a solid C.
I only saw bits and pieces of it, so I can't really give a real opinion here. But I just remember not being too terribly interested. I just wanted. I was watching. I think I was babysitting, and I was trying to find something for the kids to watch, and it was on. So I'm like, oh hey, well I never saw it, and it's Richard Linklater, so I'll put this on. But I was kind of up doing other things at the time. I would come in and watch parts of it. The kids seemed to like it, so that's good.
Got it. Next film, Fast Food Nation, starring a huge ensemble cast whose names I'm not even gonna list off because there's too many people. This is one weird film. It's Waking Life has like one of the weirdest premises ever, but honestly, I think this film is on the same level with the weirdness when it comes to Linklater's films. I remember when we did our Oscars hangout, and when Chase found out that he directed this, he was really shocked because like it didn't really feel like a Linklater film. It felt like something that any director could have made, and it didn't really stand out. I don't really care for this film personally. It's always sad whenever you have someone like Richard Linklater direct the film, but then you're like, oh, I don't really care for it. I mean, every director has their missteps. They do, and sadly, this is one of his missteps. I mean, say what you want about Waking Life. I personally don't like the film, but it's not hated by a lot of people. So, but Fast Food Nation, I tried to rewatch it again. I couldn't get into it again. I saw it one time. I was like, it was okay. When I tried to rewatch it again, I'm like, I'm not into it. I can't do it. So, Fast Food Nation, bleh.
You know, Brian, I can't remember this movie. I mean, I know I saw it. That's the thing. But I don't really remember that much about it at all.
It just had like a weird
premise.
premise.
It's weird when that happens because you know you've seen something, but then you're like, what? What exactly happened in that movie again? So I mean, that can't be saying too much for it. That I obviously found it forgettable. That's all I can contribute.
Well, at least we have a good film that came out afterwards, like a few months afterwards, and that film is.
Does the scanner see into the head, down into the heart? Does it see into me, into us, clearly or darkly? I hope it sees clearly because I can't any longer see into myself.
A Scanner Darkly, starring Keanu Reeves.
I thought that was Keanu.
Yeah, I think I'm back. I'm back. I think I'll do these two girls. And I'm thinking I'm back. And it also stars Woody Harrelson, Robert Downey Jr., and Winona Ryder. Who looks gorgeous when she's in anime. Now, this was another anime film, but it was understandable. This is a very effed up film. I will start off by saying this. This is a very fucked up film. But I love that Linklater directed a film like this. It's so intense. It's like so thrilling. It's so mysterious. You don't know what the fuck is going on. But you watch it and you're just like, I am so like enthralled by this because this movie is so good. Now, granted, you might have to rewatch it a few times to understand it. But you kind of get an idea of what you're getting. I think everyone did a great job. I think Keanu Reeves was amazing here. I thought he did a terrific job. Robert Downey Jr. killed it here. He was really funny. Same goes for Woody Harrelson, who was a standout here in this movie. And I liked Winona Ryder here, too. I thought she did good. I'm kind of not exactly a hardcore fan of her. And it's a long story, but I do think that she is a good actress. I do. It's just her facial expressions sometimes really annoy me when she opens her eyes very wide to the point. If you see The Crucible, you would understand.
I love The Crucible and Winona Ryder.
Yeah,
Hey.
you're barked up the wrong tree on this one, man.
But yeah, I really liked the story, and I thought the animation here was terrific. I would have liked to have seen this movie in live action though, and I saw, and because I work at a library, I saw this graphic novel. Like I had to shelf it, and I'm like, oh, I looked through it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to put this down. Like it had a Minority Report vibe to it, and why is that? Because the guy who originally wrote Scanner Darkly, the graphic novel, was the guy who wrote the Minority Report book, and yeah, like I really do like this film. I think it's very underrated. It was a box office bomb, which breaks my heart. It really does. But honestly, it's not a film for everybody, and I think it's worth watching just for the performances and the animation. And even though this one has a lower rating than Waking Life, which I don't understand, fuck you critics. You guys could go kiss my ass and just go and disappear for life. But I do really like Scanner Darkly. I think it's a very underrated film, and I'm curious to know if Amanda has seen this film.
I have seen this film. I enjoyed this film. I was excited to see Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder in a movie together for some reason.
And in cartoon form.
Yes, I know. It looks awesome. I mean, it reminded me like of Waking Life because he was doing another animated feature with real people, with real actors, and then animate. How did they do that exactly? Do you know the process here? Because
I don't really look into animation, but it's not like your typical animation where you see movies like the Pixar films or the DreamWorks films. This
right,
is
because
like
they look just like
no,
them.
because they filmed them with live action. Then
they filmed them live action, and then that's what I'm saying. Like, so when you're watching this, it's almost like watching a comic.
Exactly.
Actors.
It's like watching a graphic novel come to life. It's like with Sin City, except Sin City was real life. And the thing is, like, they filmed this movie, like, filmed it for like 2 months, and then they spent a whole year in post production with all the animation and stuff. So this wasn't an easy film to make, but I'm kind of sad it was a box office bomb. But continue your thoughts on this movie.
I just think it's intriguing that Richard Linklater that he does this sometimes, that he makes these animated features like this, because I mean it's not a typical choice, and it's something that we associate with him because he did it a couple of times. What I like about him is that he obviously makes films because he wants to. He's not really choosing a story or a film because he thinks it's going to make a lot of money, or he thinks that everyone's going to go and watch it. He makes it pretty much for himself, and then he puts it out there, and whatever happens, happens. And even if you don't like, say, Waking Life or Fast Food Nation, he obviously had his reasons for making the film, and that's always what I feel after I watch one of his, even if I personally am not like completely in love with the movie itself. You can always just tell Richard is making this movie because he wanted to make it, and that's what a true artist does. They're making their art because they're passionate about making their art, not the money. And I know he feels that way because he's talked about it before. And I just respect that so much. And another reason why he's one of my favorites is because essentially he made Dazed and Confused, the Before series, School of Rock, and Boyhood. And not every director is going to have a hit every time. Like some of them have. Some of them have with a shorter resumes. Like so far, Derek C. in France, for instance, everything he's made I think is phenomenal, and so far he's like hit. But I mean, like if he continues to make film, he might miss at some point. Richard Linklater might not have all hits, but you just know after you watch something he made that his heart was in it, and that's the best part about it.
Right.
Next film goes to another underrated and underappreciated film that he made, and that film is...
Okay, so tell me who you are.
Who I am?
Yeah. What are you offering?
Wealth, travel, fame. I can take you to movies that have all that.
Me and Orson Welles, starring Zac Efron, Claire Danes, and Christian McKay. This film, I think, is amazing. I mean, first of all, you hear Zac Efron saying it, and you're like, ha, you start to crack up. But let me just say this right now. I thought he held his own in this film, and I thought he did a terrific job. I really thought he did a great job. To me, this was the first performance I saw from him where I'm like, you know what? He's not just that Disney pretty boy. He's actually a good actor. Then he started to do more movies. I mean, he hasn't really been the best movie choices, but when you watch Neighbors, you could see that this guy has so much potential because he was the best thing about Neighbors, and Neighbors is a very good film. And you would think, oh, Zac Efron might not be the best thing, but he was the best thing about that film. But what I love about this movie, I mean, what it's about is that Zac Efron plays a kid that's my age, 17. And then he runs into Orson Welles, who's played brilliantly by Christian McKay. And he tells him, you know what? I want you to be part of my production of Julius Caesar. And it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. Like, it's a great film, and no one talks about this film. No one talks about this film. Why? I don't know. I wish I had an answer. But I mean, like I said with Zac Efron and Christian McKay, they both were great, and Claire Danes even did a good job too. I love the writing. I love Linklater's direction. But the best thing is simply Christian McKay's Orson Welles. Like, he embodied that role. I felt like I was seeing Orson Welles. And when you're able to play a real life person, and you just see the person, that's always the best compliment you can give to an actor, even when they're playing someone that's fictional. That's the best thing you could say about an actor. So, yeah, I really love me and Orson Welles. I love the story, I love the writing, I love the directing, I love the acting. I hope that Zac Efron works with Richard Linklater again. And, yeah, I love me and Orson Welles.
This movie is lovely. It is a lovely film. I mean, just like the way it looks, that's part of it. But just like, that's how it made me feel in general. This is lovely, lovely story, lovely acting. And the actors themselves are lovely. I think that at this point, I think Zac Efron, I don't know which one came first, that Paperboy movie or this?
This came first. Paperboy came out in 2012.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know which order I saw him in, though. I know I watched this with one of my best friends. We wanted to see it because of A, Richard Linklater, B, Claire Danes, and C, the time period it was set in, and the fact that Orson Welles was, like, involved as a character. So much, such a good watch. It's a good movie, and I was very impressed with Zac Efron as well. I seriously thought you were drinking that. I'm sorry. Oh my god.
Could I ask you this before you give your thoughts on this? Do you think Zac Efron's a pretty boy?
Of course, yeah.
Of course he is. I think he's a pretty boy.
He would be in the category of pretty boy.
Okay, I just wanted to know if that was a man crush of Amanda's. That's all I wanted to know. I always wanted to know if Amanda thought Zac Efron was hot.
Boys. Leonardo DiCaprio back in his prime. Well, I mean, he's in his prime now, but I mean, like, back in, like, the Titanic days, the Romeo and Juliet days, like, that sort of deal. Robert De Niro back in his day when he was doing male, modeling and nudity and that kind of thing.
Modeling and like what?
We'll save that fact. That was an interesting fact. We should have saved that for our De Niro episode, which will be coming in like 25 years. But go back to this movie, Amanda. Like, go back to Zac Efron.
I was interested in seeing how Zac Efron would lead a film like this because I think Claire Danes is a class actress. Okay, she is so talented to me. She has always been talented since my so-called life. Like, she's one of my favorites.
Do you watch Homeland?
She is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm saying all this about her, having not really followed Homeland. I've seen a few episodes. I plan to maybe at some point watch it. I haven't decided yet.
I don't watch it, but my parents do, and they love it.
I've heard a lot of great things. I know Claire's already won for it. The critics love this show. I feel like it's necessary for me to see it because I'm such a fan of her.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you haven't seen it.
Her film work, because like any movie she's in, I'll try and see it. I don't know why I didn't really watch Homeland. I saw a few episodes and I was like, well, it's okay. But back to this film. I thought it was a great film. It really was, and I would like to watch it again because I guess I watched it the one time after it first came out, and I wanted to see it with my brother. So I'm gonna try and do like a Richard Linklater marathon or something and throw that one in there.
Cool. That works. That's cool. What would you like give this movie grade wise?
Grade wise, using letters?
Sure.
Like an A, B, C, or D, or F?
I would give it an A minus.
Cool. I would give it an A. So the next movie is a movie that I watched like 2 months ago for the very first time. And I'm glad I watched it because, man, oh man, was this film interesting. And there's a lot of interesting facts surrounding this film and Richard Linklater. So get ready because we're about to talk about
76 trombones led the big parade with 110 cornets close at hand.
Wait, that's the music
They
man.
were followed by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos, the cream of every famous band.
Bernie. I want Amanda to go first on this movie. I'm gonna let you go first. What do you think of Bernie?
I think Bernie is a very well made piece and very interesting because it was based on a true story, and you kind of can't really believe the things that are happening. I really liked how it went back and forth between showing Jack Black and the characters in the film, and then having like sort of interview footage with some of the actors. I think some of the people were not even actors.
Some of them were real life people who knew the real life Bernie.
Right. That's what I could tell, and I thought that was a nice touch. It's a very interesting story. Like, I was sucked in from the beginning. It's like, what is going to happen? Like, where is this going? I hadn't read anything about it, so I had no clue what I was getting myself into. But I knew it was Richard, and I knew Jack Black was involved. It was on Netflix. I hit play, and then it goes off. And I'm like, that was a lot better than I anticipated. Because once I realized what it was about, it's like, okay, this could go either way for me, and I loved it. I thought Jack was so good. That's why earlier I was like, I'm not sure School of Rock is my favorite performance from him, because this is such a strong performance from Jack Black here. Very good.
Yeah, I love this film. I agree that it was fantastic. I love the way that how like it had the real life events, and then all of a sudden it had these interviews with people who knew the real life Bernie. The criticism I have is that like the events of this movie actually happened in the 90s, but the movie takes place in present day, which I guess I can understand, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know if I like that. But I did love Jack Black here. I thought it was great. I really like Shirley MacLaine, and I really like Matthew McConaughey here. I love his accent. When he says Marjorie, it's like the funniest shit ever.
I forgot about that.
And yeah, I just really love the story. Like, we're not gonna go on for too much long. It's getting a little late, so we gotta like keep going a little quicker. But I will say I love this film, and I do recommend it very much.
I agree.
Our next film is Before Midnight. I had a quote from this, but I really don't feel like playing it right now. We got another excellent film, and if this is the final film, it wrapped up the trilogy beautifully well, and I'm glad that this film and Before Sunset got Oscar nominations for Best Adapted Screenplay. Like, and in this one, they were so more adult. I mean, like, there's the scenes in the hotel room that just, like, the feels, hashtag the feels. It's just very special. Like, it really was an excellent film. I thought both of them, once again, were excellent. And, one moment, and I'm just going to briefly bring this up, one moment that really made me crack up was when they were on their way walking to the hotel that they were staying at. It's just like, sometimes I could see you as this Joker, but then all of a sudden, like, you just disappeared to someone else, and he's like, what makes you say that? Like, he talks in the heavy, it's like, what? Come on, just be myself. Like, he does the hype. It's really an excellent film. This was a great film, Before Midnight, and, I just saw this for the first time last year. I think this was shortly before I met you. This was shortly before you and I started talking. And, yeah, it's excellent. Love it.
I mean, I was, again, so excited to learn that they were coming back to finish up the Celine and Jesse saga. And oh my gosh, this one, there's so many great quotes. So many great quotes. I love that we were able to see them with other like parts of their family members. You're seeing all these new characters get introduced. You know, you realize like so much has happened in their relationship since the last time we saw them. Because even at that point, it was like, will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? And at this point, it's like they did, and it's so fulfilling to see them at this stage in their life and in their relationships. I mean, you're seeing them older, and it just makes you feel so much for these characters. And then when they're fighting, it's like, you know, they throw in some conflict and sort of gives it the idea of, you know, are we really meant to be together forever sort of thing. And it's the audience knows that they are, but you kind of have to watch them, you know, figure it out all over again and remind themselves why they're together in the first place. So amazing, the chemistry. I don't know how we haven't brought that up yet. Just the word chemistry, because when it comes to chemistry, this is some of the best chemistry on screen between two people ever, and they just sort of grand slammed it here, brought it all home for everybody. And I mean that again, the ending with the poem. Sigh, major sigh. Yeah. This series is one of the best film series, in my opinion, of any series of any kind. Whether you, I mean, we got so many at this point. It's a popular thing.
It's one of the best trilogies we've ever had.
Yeah, it's a popular thing to make a trilogy these days, and for me, this is my favorite one, and it's a lot different from your typical trilogy. So that's probably part of the reason why I love it so much, and it just feels real. And when something can make you believe it's happening like this, like you just really believe that you're watching Celine and Jess. It's like they are these characters, and the way they improvise as well with each other, just a masterclass in acting. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than this. I feel like it should just win its own Oscars. We should just have an Oscar ceremony just for this series and give them very specific Oscars for their performances and like best. You know, how do we best kiss? Which one? Which one do we choose? Do we choose one from before sunrise, before sunset, or before midnight? Which one is the best kiss? You know, stuff like that. I would watch the hell out of that show. Anyway, I think we got like one or two more.
One more.
Oh, well, we all know what that is.
Go ahead.
Girlhood. I'm just kidding. It's a little film that took only 12 years to make. Boyhood.
Now, this is where my expertise comes into play.
Stephen can actually say something
But
about this.
can I go first, because I don't have much to say. I'm not gonna really say much to say. Now, when I heard about this movie, I was very interested in it mainly for the way it was made. And I'm like, I gotta see this. As a film lover, this is a must-see. Like, honestly, say, like, Scorsese made it, or Spielberg, or Tarantino, I would still see it no matter what. But because Richard Linklater was directing, I'm like, okay, this seems very interesting for him. Because I never heard about this movie until, like, it premiered at Sundance. And, I was really intrigued by the premise. So I was like, I gotta check this movie out. I saw it. I love it. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who call this movie overrated, and they say it doesn't really have a story. I mean, yeah, the story.
Marley and Me didn't have a story. It was just about a family who owns a dog, and the dog dies. Yet that's such a big movie as well. I mean, it's like it doesn't necessarily have to have a quote unquote story. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. But people just thought that because everyone was claiming that this was the best film of the year. I mean, I got the movie. I have the movie on Blu-ray. It was my third favorite film of last year. My number one was Whiplash, and my number two was Birdman. And I know that Amanda did a reaction to when this film lost Best Picture to good old Birdman, which surprised a lot of people. but at the same time, it really didn't surprise that many people. But yeah, what I love about this movie, I love all the performances. Patricia Arquette is amazing here. Well deserved the Oscar. She well deserved. The kids are both fantastic. They improved as the movie went on, and Ethan Hawke killed it here. He really did a great job. And then all the storylines, just seeing these characters, like, you watch these people grow up, you grow up with them. You do. You grow up with them, and that's the joy of this movie, and that's why I think it's a great film. And I mean, you, I mean, I can never talk about Boyhood without mentioning the alcoholic husband, the biggest a-hole in any film I think I've ever seen. One of the biggest, maybe bigger than. Actually, no, that's a little too far. He's not as big of an a-hole as J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, but I mean, just it's mind-boggling. Boyhood's a great film. I still stand by saying this, that it is a great film, but I don't think it was the best film of 2014. I still stand by saying that Whiplash was the best film. And you know what? Would I have been mad if Boyhood won Best Picture? No. But I'm happy that Birdman won because I really love Birdman. The only award that Birdman did not win that it didn't win was Best Actor. I'm going to keep going on about this. Michael Keaton should have won. Okay? Okay? I saw the director of Spotlight a few days ago, and I whispered when he came out, I'm like, Michael Keaton for Best Supporting Actor. Please make it happen. Like, I whispered that because you know what? It's time he won. Get on that Academy. But yeah, Boyhood, we said enough. Now, Amanda, go ahead.
I'll try and make this as brief as possible. I find it so incredible that Richard Linklater was making this film while making all of his other films. It's like, obviously it would take a couple of weeks out of every year to come back and pick up where they left off. But having Ethan Hawke involved, and he was making the Before series, like Before Sunset and Before Midnight, those movies filmed while he was also in the process of making Boyhood over the course of 12 years. And I mean, people want to say it's overrated because we keep talking about the fact that it was filmed over the course of 12. Well, I mean, no one else has ever done that before, so of course it's going to get a lot of hype around it because it's a milestone. It's a milestone in filmmaking. It's how can we not praise the fact that he was actually able to do this successfully, because so many things could have gone wrong that would have, he was taking a big risk at saying, I want to make a film where we watch this actor actually grow up. We're going to start when he's a little boy, and by the time the film ends, he's going to be off to college.
Something could have happened. Listen, something could have happened. Someone could have died.
Someone could have died. Someone could have quit. I mean, what the odds were really against him in this, and it happened. And when you just really take a minute to think about how much was put into this, how many people, like, when they agreed to sign on to this, 12 years. It's going to take 12 years before you ever see the final product. And the relationships that they formed over 12 years, I mean, the bonding experience between Patricia and the kids. I mean, she talked about how it was like they were her kids. And, I would absolutely kill to be a part of something like that. It's almost like, though, I don't want it to happen again. I don't want anyone else to attempt to do this because, I mean, how do you not say that they're just, they're coattailing what someone else started? And I don't know, I feel like it's a standalone thing. And I mean, it would be cool to know that someone else could do the same thing, but it would always get compared to Boyhood, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing in that case. That being said, performance-wise, I mean, like, you love the characters, all of them. I mean, some of them are awful, like the stepdad, but I mean, for, the main people here, the two kids and the mom and dad. Some people have complained that Mason wasn't very likable. I felt like he was not the typical description. He didn't go for. He didn't write a character, and obviously they wrote it as they went along. So he didn't know exactly where this was going to end or how they were going to pick up in the next year. He didn't already have it all figured out. Sometimes they wrote things, when they came back together, like figured out what they were going to do with it. But I just love that Mason, he was sort of playing off of who he really was. The way Richard allowed him to be in the film, he put a lot of his own characteristics in the character in Mason. So we're really kind of seeing the actor to a certain extent. He did talk about how there are differences between him and Mason, but at the same time, I mean, this was his first project, and he didn't really know. How much this was going to mean to him at the end. As a kid, you just think this is gonna be fun. This will be cool. Okay, and then by the end of it, he talked about when he watched it back, how he cried for the first time because there were things he had forgotten about, little things that happened that he didn't even remember really had gone down. I mean, 12 years, you can't remember everything that happens over the course of 12 years, I guess. But just such a special experience. Patricia Arquette, real quick, I'll say, she has my heart. I love that woman so much, like as a person and also as an actress. She's just one of my favorites. She's so special. And as the mom, so many things you can relate to here with all of them. Like the kids, you remember being a kid when you're like experiencing some of the things, doing some of the same things, like thinking the same way. Oh yeah, I remember when we had to move and I had to say bye to my friend. I mean, that moment when he sort of waves at his friend goodbye and the camera like can't even see it completely, just sort of cuts him off with the trees and stuff. I had that experience, and as a mom now, the things you worry about so much, and gosh, it's such a real movie, so real. I love it. But the best part about the whole thing, when it ends, you just sort of feel like you experience someone else's life with them. Like you just experience the whole thing, adolescence to almost a man, and you grow with them and you bond with them, you cry with them and laugh with them. It's all there. It's so great. And Patricia Arquette's line, I thought there would be more heartbreaking, but also, yeah. I mean, I already kind of feel that way. Don't we all? Zombie wants to say hi. So yeah, that's the short version of my thoughts on Boyhood. Steven already kind of said that he loved it. That's pretty much how he feels. He sort of mentioned at the beginning, so we don't have to continue. But
it was a great film. It was a great film, and it reminded me of my Boyhood. So I think that's what they were trying to accomplish.
Why do you think this film deserved the Best Picture over Birdman?
I don't know if it deserved the Best Picture, but I think it was just incredibly unique. And anybody who will hear about this story will think the same thing. And I think that because of its ingenuity and because of the dedication that so many people had to making this film happen over 12 years, I think that maybe not because of the hard work that was put into it, but I think because of what happened. I mean, no one's ever done this before, as Amanda said. Because of what happened, I think that it deserved the accolade that it got. Now, did it deserve Best Picture? I don't know. I think it was definitely. I think it deserved to be where it was, to be up against Birdman, and to be up against, what was that other one? Can't think of it right now.
Whiplash.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a brain fart. I think it deserved to be there because of its ingenuity, but am I upset that Birdman, got ahead and got all the? I mean, Birdman was fantastic. I freaking love that movie. So I'm not disappointed about it, but I'm glad that it got the exposure that it did because I would have hated to see this movie gone to waste, so to speak, if nobody got a nomination or if it gotten 0 nominations at all or that sort of thing. So I'm glad that it got the exposure that it did because it's definitely worth it. But in the end, it went up against some pretty hard films, to win against. So I'm not upset about it, but I really did enjoy Boyhood for sure.
And that basically wraps up our episode. So yeah, Richard Linklater, we obviously love the guy. So yeah, that is it. So Amanda, can you kindly tell us what the highly anticipated 13th episode of the Films Up podcast? I'm really excited for this.
All right, Brian. I know at one point you requested this be a female, but I feel very much inspired to have our next episode on Jim Carrey. He blows! You can't see it, but Brian put both hands in the air, mouth wide.
Finally, a comedic actor. We've done too many dramas. It's so every episode's sad. We always talk about sad shit, and now we talk about something funny with some drama. And finally, we get to talk about Eternal Sunshine again, and more about Jim Carrey, and not Kate Winslet.
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is fantastic.
It's one of your girl's favorite movies ever made.
We know all about that. Clementine is one of our favorite characters.
One of your favorite characters, not mine, but
I mean, me and Steven. And so is Joel. Both of them.
well. So yeah, that is it, guys. Jim Carrey's our next episode. Hopefully, this episode won't be in like 7 months.
Not 7 months, more like 7 weeks.
Oh, sweet Jesus, no, not again.
I'm just kidding. I have no clue when, but we don't need to figure it out right now. I'll have to text you later.
Yes, you will, because I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want the only show I do to be Nerdy Scores, a film podcast. I love doing Top 5 Saturdays Live. I love doing that show. But Nerdy Scores...
Oh, no worries, Brian. We will definitely get in our next episode will happen in November. How about that?
Okay. Wait, does he have anything... No, he doesn't. Okay, good. Alright. So yeah, that is it, guys, for this episode. I almost said Nerdy Scores. Shit. The Films Up Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we really are glad to be back. It's been very long. A lot of stuff has happened, and we're glad to be back. So yeah, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
I would just like to really quickly, very, very quickly apologize for my stumbling and stuttering tonight. I am really tired, and I have a lot of things to do.
I'm tired too. I have to wake up for school, Amanda.
But I think I got the point across for the most part.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You
we
did.
love him, guys, and you should too.
Yes. So adios, guys, and here we go, Amanda.